was only a child when I first realized the power of words. And the word became flesh. That statement has biblical proportions, and it is the foundation of the faith that I stand upon. But to me, it communicates the true essence of the fact that there is power in words, and the word became flesh. What can be uttered can become a reality. A thought or an idea that can be formed in a word can become real. I turned 5 years old when a minister of a PIPC church, the Pacific Island Presbyterian Church of Otara in South Auckland, invited me to the front of the church. And the whole congregation celebrated me with words. Manuelo asofanau sala, Manuelo asofanau. Happy birthday, Sala. You are blessed, Sala. Oh, you're a cute boy, Sala. You're so handsome, boy. You're a good boy, Sala. Oh, these words made me feel special. They made me feel like I was somebody. Those words, they made me feel loved. Until the following year, at the ripe age of 6 years old, my dad, my brave father, the first of our whole family to migrate from Samoa to Aotearoa, New Zealand, in the late 60s even, gave me my first hiding, my first ever beating. Looking back now, I understand that he was frustrated trying to sustain funding our family back in Samoa, but literally everything around him was getting more and more expensive. So he was getting more and more stressed. Therefore, he was getting more and more frustrated. And he would turn to the bottle, to alcohol for stress release, which only really heightened his frustrations. And he would eventually lose control of his emotions. You see, my dad, my brave father, would then take it out on us, my strong mother, myself, and my 3 young brothers, in the form of physical abuse and verbal abuse. And the word became flesh. And he did this nearly every day for the next 6.5 years. Until one day, I was only 12, coming back home from intermediate after school with one of my younger brothers. At the top of the driveway, we were greeted by the familiar sounds of screaming from my strong mother. I remember dropping my backpack and I sprinted down the hill, barged into the house to see the same scene, the same image of my dad, my strong father, my brave father, standing over my strong mother with a handful of her hair and her body sprawled out on the ground. And my vision literally turns red. And I snapped. I lose it. I remember picking up my dad, my brave father, and throwing him down the hallway as I stand there, strong, solid, immovable, as I watch him get up off the ground, run into the kitchen, sprint back to me, place a sharp knife to my throat, and spray colorful Samoan words into my face as I just managed to squeeze these words through my tense jaw. If you touch your mom again, I'm gonna kill you. My dad, my brave father, he throws the knife down and he takes off in the family van, and I turn to help my strong mother up, only for her to push my arm aside. And with disappointed eyes, she would say to me, "O lea mea kupu ya oi, Sala. What is wrong with you, Sala? Why would you do something stupid like that?" And the word became flesh. 3 days later, my dad, my brave father, will come back like nothing ever happened. But something did happen. You see, he would never touch my strong mother, myself, or my 3 brothers ever again. But the verbal abuse, that went to a whole neck level. I mean, we would be sitting around the table, me and my younger brothers, and we'll be watching our dad, our brave father, throw empty beer cans at the TV because the All Blacks are losing again to the Wallabies. And he'll be turning and he'll be yelling these toxic, negative, destructive words at us. You are useless. You're nothing. You can't do anything right. You're ugly. Nothing good will come out of your life. Ma'i maule o langa. What a waste of life. And the word became flesh. I just turned 13 years old. And I'm going to high school for the first time. And I'm watching my brothers around the table. And their body language is slouched over their chairs. And my youngest brother, his face is in his hands and he's crying. And subconsciously we agreed. We collectively agreed it was much better to get a hiding, to get a beating from him rather than to listen to this shit. These toxic, negative words, they just keep playing on and on and on in our minds and in our hearts, even while we were asleep. And the word became flesh. So the high school that I went to for the first time was De La Salle College in Mangere in South Auckland. And I am now the embodiment of fear and anger mashed together. I'm anxious as, I'm nervous as, and I'm just a boy in a man's body. And my internal world is absolutely dark. Until one particular English class with one particular English teacher changed my dark world around. You see, my English teacher, she was a tall Pākehā woman. She had blue eyes. She was skinny. And she had this blonde afro. And she had the same color stockings to match the color of her eyeshadow. She was an out-of-the-box teacher, and we would not regard her as a cool teacher, but I would never forget her. My English teacher decided to teach us one day poetry, and how it was a good medium for us to unpack or express things that are going on in our lives at that time. And I was drawn to poetry like a moth to a flame, and I loved it. One day when I'm trying to finish one of my poems, I can sense my teacher standing behind me, reading over my shoulder as I'm trying to finish this poem, and all of a sudden she touched my shoulder and she said, "Sala, this is amazing. You're really good." And I looked at her and I said, "Who, me, miss?" And she goes, "Yes, this is amazing. You are really good." Oh, those words. Those words were like a small speck of light that pierced my dark world. And I craved it. I craved the warmth that those words brought my cold heart. And I remember in an instant thinking to myself, "Oh, miss, one day I'm going to be just like you." And the word became flesh. More and more today, I'm seeing evidence of the power of words affecting our young people. I'm seeing evidence of the power of words affecting all our people. Just these past few months in Ototahi, Christchurch alone, there has been 11 police call-outs per night for suicide prevention. 11 police call-outs per night. Our young people, all our people are believing these lies. And these toxic, negative, destructive words are becoming flesh, even to the point of self-harm, even to the point of death. And we already know that we live in a world of tension between good and evil, where the power of words are used as weapons of destruction rather than seeds of hope. But to me, it seems like there's more death by destruction rather than fruit of hope. And I feel like the only way we can defeat negative, toxic, destructive words is to choke it with words of life. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but it's about high time we stop being morons and acknowledge the reality that there's power in words and give it the respect that it deserves. So I've been doing youth work for about 30 years. And for 12 and a half of those years, I've worked youth work in an area called alternative education. And so alternative education is an educational space, a school that the government created 30 plus years ago for 13 to 16-year-old young people that cannot fit the mainstream schooling system. And for whatever reason, from truancy to defiant behavior to gaps in their learning, these young people are just disengaged to try and learn in mainstream schooling. Therefore, the government will label them at risk and refer them to alternative education schools throughout Aotearoa, New Zealand. And I have had the privilege of managing the Poriroa Alternative School under Praxis New Zealand in Poriroa, Wellington, and also managing Te Kaupapa Whakaora, TKW, under Te Orohau Ototahi right here in Christchurch. So 6 years in Poriroa, 6.5 years here in Christchurch. And one day, 2014, a young Pākehā girl by the name of Ella walked through our TKW doors and into our life. She would not be what society call a skinny girl. If she was a rugby player, she would be an All Black. I mean, she had black hair, black eyeliner, black lipstick, black fingernails, black sweater, black tights going down to her, black shoes. One look at her and you knew she was in a dark place. And because she was coming to alternative education, let alone TKW, Te Kaupapa Whakaora, I guess, she fit the stigma. So when she came, she had to go through a porphyry process in the form of an induction, where we introduced ourselves, and she and her dad will introduce themselves, and then we'll tell her who we are and how we do things here at TKW. And then Ella picks up the pen to sign our kaupapa, our terms of agreement. And typically I will rudely interrupt her. Whoa, 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 whoa. Ella. Do you know what will happen if you sign this kaupapa? Would you totally understand what will happen if you sign on the dotted line? Ella shook her head slowly. No. If you sign this kaupapa, Ella, I become your daddy. Her dad was cracking up. My staff looked like their faceplant emoji. And Ella's eyes were wide open and she looked like death. But reluctantly, she still put pen to paper and she signed the kaupapa so she can start the next day. So when the next day came, she didn't turn up. She didn't even turn up for 3 days. But when she finally rocked up with her dad, pretty much had no choice anyway, I got up off my seat and I sprinted over to Ella and I gave her a massive hug. And she hugged me back like this. And I looked into her deep blue eyes and I said, Ella, I'm so glad you came today. Welcome to your new whānau. And the word became flesh. You see, before this kaupapa, before this kōrero, before this TEDx talk, I text Ella, because we're pretty tight. And I said, hun, are you all good if I use your story to share with the millions of viewers around the world? And she said, yeah, sweet as anything for you, Sala. I said, okay. Before you came to Te Kaupapa Whakaora, what were the words, the toxic, negative, destructive words that crippled you from being your true self? She takes back these words. Worthless. Useless. Ugly. Fat. Stupid. Hated. Waste of space. With tears in my eyes, I text back and I asked, so hun, what words did you receive from TKW that empowered you to rewrite your story? She texts back a smiley emoji. Then she texts back a heart emoji. Then she texts back these words. I am beautiful inside and out. I am smart and I'm intelligent. I am caring. I'm a crack up. For those of you who don't know, crack up is funny. I am funny. I am kind and I am scucks. You see, it was only a matter of weeks where we started seeing a physical transformation happen in Ella's life. She stopped dyeing her hair. Her natural hair color was coming through. She's a blonde. 2 weeks later, she rocked up in a bright white sweater, red lipstick. 2 weeks after that, she started believing the words we were speaking over her. She started believing in herself, and she felt safe in her new whānau. So she decided to participate in sport. So one day she rocked up for the first time ever in a t-shirt and shorts. And that's where we got to see the evidence and the scars of the toxic, negative, destructive words. They were lined up like soldiers up both her arms and in her inner thighs. And the word became flesh. At the end of her time with us, we have this whānau evening. It's a celebration where all young people and their families rock up, and we celebrate their achievements, and we celebrate those that are transitioning out into the real world, and Ella was one of them. And she rocked up to this evening, this whānau evening, in a white t-shirt, a bright orange cardigan. Her hair is fully blonde now, and she's got the biggest smile on her face. And she graduated from TKW to kaupapa whakaora, being the TKW Student of the Year. She also transitioned successfully in a hairdressing course. Now, she's a qualified full-time hairdresser at one of Christchurch's most popular and successful hair salons. We both knew when she was going to leave her place of safety, her place of belonging, that she will face the challenge between her past and her present. Her negative words versus her positive words. And we both knew there was going to be, a challenge, a struggle. But when she finally could afford to take me out for lunch, she sat me down, she said there were two sets of words that helped her keep beating these negative, toxic words that were come in her mind and in her heart every now and then. And these were her two sets of words that kept her strong. I am loved and I am worthy. I am loved and I am worthy. Whānau, there is power in words. And the power of words do not care what color skin you have. The power of words is colorblind. The power of words has no respect of what social status you fall under. And if you were to line up in a wealth continuum, the power of words will not give a damn, because the power of words will still make you or break you. So whānau, you and you alone are the filter that determines what words has power over your mind, your heart, and your life. You and you alone are responsible for allowing the words to become flesh in your life. We need to come to a point where we embrace and acknowledge the reality that there is power in words and give it the respect it deserves. And when we do that, you start seeing miracles and change in your own life. When you do that, you start seeing miracles and change in the lives of others, much like Ella's story. When you do that, you start seeing miracles and change in your own family's life. You see, in 2016, I flew my parents down from Auckland to Christchurch so they can spend Christmas, New Year's with me, my Māori queen, and my 6 beautiful kids. And so we prayed in the new year, And bang on midnight, we went, Amen, and Jehu, Happy New Year. And everyone was celebrating. We all got up and we hugged each other. We kissed each other. And I went up to my dad, my brave father, to hug him. And he stopped me with both hands on my shoulders. And I was thinking, oh, what have I done now? What did I say? Oh. He had tears running down his face. And my dad, my brave father, said, son, I'm sorry for everything that I've done to you. And then he said the very words I've been craving for all my life. Sala, I love you, and I'm proud of you. And the word became flesh. Kia ora, whawhatai.